to the most original talk radio station anywhere. We are LA Talk Radio at latalkradio.com.
You're listening to Fouché Way with Brandon Fouché, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Well, hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Fouché Way radio show, live every Thursday at 1 o'clock p.m., sponsored by the nonprofit organization called Canine Hope for Improvement Program, where we hope to improve the quality of our dogs' lives by moving towards a no-kill society. The number here is 818-602-4929. You know, isn't it interesting that man has shaped dogs to both ruthlessly serve us and unconditionally love us? We have tampered with and manipulated the dog in every way that you can imagine. We have been obsessed with perfecting them. And because of intense selective breeding, dogs have more physical and behavioral variations than any animal on this earth. Yet they are 99.8% the same genetically. And that 2% difference, a 0.2% difference, produces all the variations of sizes, shapes, and character. And that led people to loving a dog for the perfection of their breed. And so the ego of the human became so possessed with perfecting them that we produced dog shows. And this type of competition caused us to produce more dog types, and people began wanting their dogs as perfect as their landscape gardens. And that led to creating rules for perfection on how they should look and act. This is called the breed standard. And because of the so-called standard, we have now genetic diseases that cause deafness, cancer, blindness, hip dysplasia, and epilepsy. Purebred dogs more than others. And all of this because of humans. Even obsessive compulsive behavior. Can this be fixed? The answer is yes. Yes, because we created it. And just think, the dog has given us so much joy since their creation by working for us and making life easy by protecting us. How could we not love them? They put food on our tables by serving us. But how do you love a dog with behavioral problems? You know, when I talk to people about their dogs and how they feel about them, I often hear things like, Brandon, I really love my dog because they're so cute and cuddly, especially when they curl up next to me. They say all kinds of wonderful things about them. But when you have a behavioral problem, the reality is quite different, and the quality of love can change also. When you find yourself being secluded from the rest of the world, and that world becomes smaller because of your dog's behavioral problems, it's easy to lose yourself while trying to hold on to them and fix the problem. And so we are going to have to understand the kind of love that it's going to take is unconditional love. You see, anyone can say, I love my dog, when your dog appears to love you back. But what if your dog bites you, or someone else, or attacks another animal? It requires something more from you. It requires that you understand that they're not perfect, but at least they're not fake. It requires that you understand that there is no pretense within dogs, and what you see is what you get. And so because if what you see is what you get, they have no problem embarrassing you in public. And if you don't fix it, they won't stop. You know, I'm the last person that you would have to tell that it's not easy with dogs that have issues. I truly understand. But I want you to understand that most people looking on may never understand what you're going through with an aggressive dog, unless they're going through it too. But how do we understand? First, we must ask, why do we love them in the first place? And the answer is communication. Their ability to learn how to communicate with us and how this behavior relates to our behavior. See, they imitate us with their gestures. They follow us, depend on us. It has become now what we could say hardwired in the dog. And that's why we love them, because they look to us for help. And we interpret this as love. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we must go deeper with humanizing them. In other words, in order to understand the kind of love it takes to love a dog with behavioral problems, we must first understand the statement that I have previously said about humans tampering and manipulating ruthlessly the genetic makeup of the dog. So much so that we produce the diseases that become genetic problems for us as well as the dog. This is like a potter who makes a pot and curses its form after it's done. And you made it. Do you know that most of our problems have to do with aggression? And when I say that, I mean the death of our dogs by us is for aggression. And I'm sure I can speak for every dog lover. We would not be putting our dog to death for just tail wagging, genetic behaviors like that. It's aggression pretty much across the board. So genetic problems is not the problem. It's the learned behaviors. Even though predatory behavior is hardwired, it's what they learn to do with it that gets them in trouble. And that's where we come in. But I'm asking you, do you love your dog enough to recognize that we have taught them to become neurotic in their behavior? Will you be willing to explore, for the sake of your dog, the things that we do that twist their minds with the games that we play? Innocently enough, I understand, yet detrimental to their longevity with us. Would you be willing to agree that it is as much our problem as theirs? Because we are now their protectors, and we must help the dog that has a predisposition to be aggressive. We are the ones that have enhanced, we are the ones that have enhanced their prey drive with our games of predatory behavior. So much so that the neurotic behavior seems genetic now, which makes it easy to kill them. Some professionals say genetics can't be changed, and that's wrong on many levels. Chances are it was probably learned in the first place, because scientists are restricting genes every day to produce what we want in our dogs. And the aggression that I witness every day is usually from our lack of understanding. The human is supposed to have the bigger brain. And that lack of understanding is misinterpreted by our dog. So when we say good boy, is he a good boy because he looks so cute walking towards you with that make-believe squirrel in his mouth that squeaks? Or are you rewarding him for what he's thinking of doing to a squirrel when he takes his walk? Think about it. And our guests today have been thinking about it. And they are beginning to see the light, and it's getting brighter every day. And so my first guest today is Danielle with her two shepherds, Yago and Zara. Are you there, Danielle?
Yes, hi.
How are you today?
Oh, I'm great. How are you?
Good. You know, I wanted to have you on. One of the reasons, I'm kind of partial to shepherds. I have a lot of shepherds, and the main reason is that, when I was young, I was mauled by a German shepherd. So
Right.
Somehow there's a connection there. But
Yeah.
I want you to tell our listeners your story about how you came to see me, but I want you to paint the picture of how life was before reaching me. Can you tell us about your two dogs and yourself?
Yeah. So I don't know how far back you need.
Well, let's talk about the fact of, you had a problem with a dog. I'll bring you forward. You had a problem with a dog that you were living with or fostering. And
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
of course.
tell that story.
So, yeah, I've had a German Shepherd for 13 years, and we were great together. There wasn't that much traditional training. We're just me and him doing our thing. And he passed away all of a sudden in December. One day I came home, he was happy, and 10 minutes later he was dead. 6 months before that, I had fostered a friend's dog who had been flown from South Africa because, to make a long story short, the previous owner needed to relocate, and she was about to put him down, and the son was trying to save the dog. But then this dog went to America, and they decided he was extremely aggressive. And so they tried to relocate him or find him a home, but really just wanted to put him down. And while in the 6 months I was working on it, I thought that it might be good to have some company for my 13-year-old dog. And it was tough because he did have some issues. He was really aggressive towards other dogs, and in the sense that if another dog would get close to him, he would literally try to kill it. Amazing with people, he had this problem. Anyway, my dog passed away in December, and that was a hard hit for me. And then 2 weeks later, things just started spinning out of control with these friends to the point where we got in this huge fight for I don't know how many hours until I caved in. And they wanted to have a vet sent to my house to put the dog down because they didn't want to deal with it anymore. And I think, unfortunately, being in the emotional state I was, I caved in. And that has affected me I don't know how much had affected me. At the same time, like 2 months prior to that, I had gotten my first dog, we still have, Zara, who's a 3-year-old black shepherd. Pretty mellow, very funny and easy, and huge prey drive, though. And I live in Topanga, so I got a lot of squirrels and a lot of rabbits and a lot of crazy stuff showing up in my front door.
Mm-hmm.
She was obsessive with the ball. To the point where it kind of became pathological.
Mm-hmm.
And she was fine, and we were alone at that point. When the other dog got put down, we were alone for about 3 months. And then I found Yago online through a rescue, another black German Shepherd, a 6-month-old puppy at the time. And very hyper. I knew I was getting a very hyper dog, but I love German Shepherds. And I thought, well, I've had them most of my life. I'll be able to figure this out. But then his hyperness started turning into more and more hyperness until I completely was unable to take him on walks with other dogs. He was fine with people, but with other dogs, he would just go completely bonkers,
Mm-hmm.
and I had no way to control him. And then, unfortunately, it came to a point where, he also became fence aggressive, and that I think he picked up from Zara. Mm. And being Topanga, there's a lot of dogs that roam around free in the street, and two specifically, they just consistently come to my gate, challenging the two dogs. So apart from having to replace the gate, a week ago, or 2 weeks ago at this point, I ended up breaking a finger really badly while trying to control Yago. I never have collars on them while I'm at home. That was the one day I did, and that was the result. So before I knew it, I was in surgery fixing my finger. Mm-hmm. And that made me realize this has to stop.
So now you're one-handed.
I'm sorry?
Now you have one hand that you're working with.
Yeah, I have one hand, and the other one is just fully in a cast. Mm-hmm. So, there was no way I could control these. It's a total of 130 pounds worth of dogs. One is still growing, trying to take them on walks, and this one just goes, literally, he's flipping around and doing crazy stuff. So I have been already looking, and I think the fact that I broke the finger made me really desperate to find something. And finally, searching the internet, I came across your website, and I realized that was the right thing because, taking a step back, 10 days prior to me coming to you, I had just come back from a trip to Italy, where I'm from, and I had left the dogs in the boarding place and paid for a lot of money for starting to train Iago or try to fix his social problem. And I told him up front, I don't need my dog to sit. I need my dog to be able to socialize with dogs. I cannot create that environment for him in my house. I don't have the right dogs. I don't have the right space, and certainly I don't have the knowledge. What I got back after 10 days was them not liking my dog. He got bitten.
What happened? Well, I think we probably...
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Pretty much turns out they kept him in isolation most of the time because he was super hyper, which I told him in the first place. That's what I was paying them. So I got back a dog that could heel almost perfectly because I don't know if it's a German Shepherd, just a very smart dog. He picked up commands really quickly, but he would still go bonkers with other dogs, and that made me realize this is useless to me. So when I came to you, I was pretty desperate because especially after what happened with my foster dog, there was no way I was going to give up on him. I never thought in the first place I would be able to give up on a dog, but that happened at the beginning of the year, so I was no way I was going to give up on this one. And literally in one afternoon, I dropped off the dog. I came back, and it was so easy and simple, the answer. And it's been, 4 days now, and I haven't had a problem since. I'm walking them with one hand. They do exactly what I need to do. Fence barking has stopped completely to the point where I think the other dogs are so bored by the situation they don't even come and challenge the gate anymore.
Wow.
So it's been, and I won a couple of dinners because nobody would believe it would be possible. So thank you for that as well. And it's been amazing.
Yeah, I want to say something, because there's someone listening that has the same situation that you have that haven't seen me yet, and they're waiting to give up on their dogs. And I told them, no, I want you to listen to your story because it's so important. I'm very passionate about saving the lives of dogs, and my philosophy is that mainly our dogs are the way they are because of how we're living with them. And if we want something different, then we're going to have to change our lifestyle, which means that we're going to have to change the way we think. And all we need is information on where we went wrong, how we actually got to this problem. And I want people to hear you because you understand now where you got to where you are. A lot of people want to know, what do I do? What do I do? How do I fix this problem? And I always say, when you want to know exactly what to do, it's like putting a Band-Aid on a cut that needs stitches. You need to know where this problem came from, because if you know where it came from, there are many ways to stop it. And and really, it's not that far from being successful. It's not going to cost you that much time, and that's not going to cost you that much money, and you're going to get there quickly, but first you have to believe that it's possible. And that's why I wanted you on, to tell this person. Yeah.
No, and I hope, if this person is listening, the shock that I had by the experience of having that dog be picked up from my house and then coming home from work and he wasn't there anymore, knowing what happened, and I allowed it to happen. It's horrible to live with that. And again, the people that did put him down, they're not like me or other people about dogs, so they don't have any, problems with their conscience or anything. But I didn't realize how badly it had affected me. And like I told you the other day, I saw you Monday, and on the Tuesday, I had the biggest cry I've had. Just, again, like a relief cry. Just because it was such a relief to see that I could be doing something right for these dogs, and that I wouldn't have to, that situation could be not fixed, unfortunately, for that dog, but I could maybe move on to something better and something good finally.
Yeah. And in some way you have closure now. In some way you have closure.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm going to carry it with me just because of the way I am, but it was big. And the funny part is that my super hyper psycho, little 9-month-old dog, he spent the whole day snoring on the couch because he was so exhausted. And I think the exhaustion came from finally saying, "Oh, finally you're talking my language. I know, I can chill out." Because watching him run around, crazy, like a crazy, crazy dog. And if that dog is barking, then I should be barking. If that dog is smashing something, well, then maybe I should be doing the same thing. And finally having things clear, he was dead.
Yeah, because you finally became who you needed to be for him.
Right.
See, this is about your relationship with him. When our dogs are acting up, it's because they're saying, "I don't know how to feel or what to do with the feelings that I'm having." And we're not taught to communicate to that part of our dogs.
Right.
But once you do, it's instant.
No, yeah, and it was instant. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. And I don't see that. It's not a miracle. It's not anything. But it's like me as a foreigner living in this country, I do sometimes see people when I'm talking to them, they look at me like I'm crazy. Like, what the heck are you saying? Because you're using a language that we don't understand.
Right.
And the moment I start speaking their language correctly, then it's like, oh, God, you could have said that right away, duh.
Right.
And it just kicks in right away.
Exactly.
And it doesn't have to take months of teaching my dog, leave it with a stupid treat. I mean, to me, that to put a treat in front of my dog and tell him, it's there, but don't take it.
Right.
It was, what's the point of that? I don't get it. So.
Well, look, as I said in the beginning, you're beginning to see the light, and the light is growing brighter and brighter every day. And I want you to stay on this track and continue to talk to me, continue to call me, and have the best life that you can have with your dog. It's possible, and that's what this show is about. And it's not going to take long to get there. So, Danielle, I want to thank you for coming on. Take care of those two shepherds, and I will see you soon, okay?
We'll talk soon.
All right, great.
Take care.
You're welcome. Our next caller is Bridget with her dog, Max. Hello, Bridget. Are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You know, I've seen a lot of terriers, but this guy, when he walked into my place, I think I told you, he is cute as all outdoors with that little underbite.
Yeah, yeah.
But just
Definitely.
as cute as he is, he was true to his name, his breed, a terrier. And I want you to tell our listeners what you were going through with Max.
Okay, I can, absolutely. First of all, I got Max as a Mother's Day gift. I have two kids, and when I was gone for a weekend of Mother's Day visiting my mom, my husband and son decided that they would bring me home a puppy. And we already had a 10-year-old dog who is pretty used to being, she kind of runs the house in a very passive-aggressive way. And so I came home to this puppy, and needless to say, was a little bit unnerved by it. And we had about getting a dog. But, I knew how much work a puppy entailed, and I knew I would be the one doing it.
Right.
So I was in a groove with my dog, the existing dog, and here comes Max, this puppy. And he kind of threw a wrench into everything. But I was bound and determined to figure out how to, work with him and make him fit into our life, because the first day the kids went back to school, and he was running around the house, and it's crazy enough in the morning as it is, and he was running around the house, and my son is like, "Mom, the dog just peed on the living room rug." And I basically, as soon as the kids left, I just sat down and cried, because I thought, how am I going to do this?
Right.
Like, my whole world has been rocked by having this puppy.
Right.
And but I felt this huge responsibility to this dog. I can't return him. I have to figure out how to make him work with our house.
That's that mother instinct, huh?
I'm sorry.
That mother instinct. The mother instinct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and I think the thing that was frustrating for me the most was that my husband had made this huge commitment on my behalf, and now I was the one that had to figure out how to make it work.
I
So
see.
that created a little bit of an issue as well when you talk about kind of the world before and after. But as I was, determined to bring him into my world, I started walking him with my existing dog, and, trying to keep him trained on the leash and walking the two of them. And at first he did okay. But then as we started doing the same circle every morning, he would, as we approached certain houses that had dogs that would start barking at him, he would start getting really anxious. And his hair would go up on the back of his neck, and he kind of started going into this frenzy. And not only was he anxious, but then, he started nipping at my other dog, Daisy, and she started getting uncomfortable and anxious, so she started whining, which just made it worse. And then you add that to the mix that I then got very anxious and uncomfortable, which, made the whole situation disastrous. So eventually I started walking them separately because I couldn't handle walking them together, which I knew was ridiculous and not sustainable, but I didn't know how else to handle it.
Sure.
So I realized that I had to make a change. But the way I was feeling is I felt this incredible burden, and I hated feeling this burden for, like you said, this cute dog with this funny underbite, and he was 90% great. He had this personality. He was really funny. When we were at home, he was great. And I would wake up in the morning and I was dreading the walk because I had to get him out of the house before the neighbors came out, before anybody started walking their dog. So it put me on this time frame, even during the summer, where it was like, I have to get out before anybody else is out there because I don't want to come across any other dogs. I want to avoid them.
Talk about your world becoming small, huh?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And, yeah, exactly. You
start waking up at hours.
I was terrified to go out of my gate with him because I thought, what if there's a dog out there? What if somebody's walking by? Like, it was almost like what's waiting for us out there. It was this horrible, horrible, anxious feeling.
Right.
And it became really preoccupied with it. So even when I wasn't walking him and trying to figure out, I would try different things. And I was laughing when Daniela said, with the training, that she said that, I don't need him to sit. I need him to be socialized. And I did the exact same thing. I went to a training thinking, well, this will help him going and socializing with other dogs. And It was an utter and complete disaster. And the trainer kept saying, well, maybe if you put him with mellow dogs that have a low energy, that'll work. And I'm like, I don't know any I don't know any dogs with low energy, so I'd call my friends and say, can Max come play at your house? Because he doesn't know how to relate to other dogs, and I'm setting up play dates, and it became this obsession with how to figure out how to fix my dog. And anyway, so we tried the training route, and that didn't work. And then finally one morning, and this was just last week, because I'm going through the whole summer walking the dogs one at a time. As we left out my gate, my neighbor's dog was in his yard, and the driveway was open, and he came walking out, and Max went ballistic, into his frenzy. His hair on the back of the neck started barking like he wants to take this dog out. And the dog was probably about 15 times his size. And the dog, I think, is a gentle giant, just kind of came wandering over to see what the heck was going on.
Right.
But then as Max was antagonizing him, he started kind of feeding into it. And so they started, showing signs that something was going to happen. And me, of course, being the nervous Nellie, pick up my dog. I'm in between the two of them. Thankfully, the neighbor came out and got her and got their dog, and it was resolved. But I went straight back home, and I just said, this is it. I have to figure out how to get this done. And my plan was, I had already been talking to Kathy to schedule time with you. I was trying to get my family to come with me so that they could see the process and learn about, what was going on. But I just said, I have to go. I have to go by myself, even if it's tomorrow.
Exactly.
And that's what I ended up doing.
Well,
and,
so you brought him in, and, I've seen these guys before, and there's such a thing as, we talk about anxiety separation, and we can have that, dogs can have that towards other dogs too. And that stress, I've said it a million times, stress can lead to aggression. And because we've only talked and practiced training, which is to go in the opposite direction from where you really want to go, that also creates stress. And so by evaluating your dog, Max, I was able to see that Max needed to go forward, even if there was danger involved, because nature intended dogs to experience danger so that they can learn how to survive. And Max had exactly what I call learned helplessness because the things that he was learning wasn't helping him. And so you dropped him off with me, and you came back in a couple of hours, and what did you see?
Well, first I want to kind of compare it to what my world was like mentally, because I felt this cycle, and it was a cycle of failure. It's like no matter what I did, I was failing him. I couldn't figure out how to make it work, and it was almost a depression. And I was frustrated because I wanted him to be that dog that I could take everywhere and be the perfect dog. And the burden was on me as the walker and the primary caregiver within my family to figure it out. And I felt ridiculous that I was so stressed over this. I felt silly because nobody really understood how much time I've spent thinking about it and trying to figure it out. And they would take him on a walk and be like, oh, well, that's okay. Maybe he needs more of this. I'm like, no, you don't understand. There's something fundamentally wrong with it. And so after I saw you and picked him up, it was immediate in terms of his behavior just totally changed. Once you showed me how to work with him and kind of explained what was going on. And I felt this tremendous sense of relief and optimism. It was almost instantaneous. Yeah. And then that has just kind of evolved. The next morning I went to the dog park for the first time ever, and it was incredible. It was just watching him be with the dogs and, not attack them, and like he was where he was supposed to be. Right. And I almost started crying. I was with my daughter, and I was standing in the middle of the dog park watching him running around with all these dogs, and I looked at her, and she goes, "You're not going to cry, are you?" And I said, "I almost kind of am, because this is so amazing that I never thought, particularly that quickly, that I would see." The very next day I was able to take him to the dog park. And we've gone back several times since then, and it's been amazing how quickly he's transformed. And you know what I like when you call me back and you said, "Brandon, how do I keep from going backwards?" That was powerful when you said that to me. That made me feel a certain way, because that means, it tells me how badly you want to succeed, Right. And I'm so happy that you've been able to experience this, and that you've made this miraculous success, because your world began to expand now. Absolutely. It's endless. Absolutely. Yeah. Saturday night, the night after I picked him up, I had friends over, and normally with the two dogs, we call my older dog the party patrol, because anytime there's any kind of hullabaloo going on, or people are talking too loud, or any kind of movement, she starts barking, which then sets him off, and it just becomes this, I'm constantly, shh, stop, stop barking, a lot of yelling or whatever. And that night we had friends over, and it was a totally different scenario. They were both much more relaxed. I mean, the effect that I think my transformation and the family's transformation, because then of course I had to come home and try and teach the family, had on not only on Max but also on Daisy, who is the matron of the house, was really incredible. And it's in every, not only that evening but in everyday things. He was used to go through the trash under my desk. This is just before I brought him to you. And I was thinking back on this. He would dig stuff out from under the desk. I would come in, and he would be on top of the kitchen table, walking around on top of the kitchen table, and be like, "What are you thinking?" He started acting out in these ways, and stealing socks when I was doing laundry and running off with them, or whatever he could get his little teeth on, his little underbite. And now he's just, he doesn't exhibit any of that behavior. He's much more relaxed. He's sleeping more, he's calmer and more, I guess, at peace, because he's getting, like you said, he's getting what he needs. He's getting what he needs, and you're being who you're supposed to be. And, I want to bring someone else in on this call. Annette, are you there? Hello? Yes, I'm right here. Right. I want to bring you in on this call with your Shepherd Roddy Mix buddy, because you are basically having the same things dealing with your walks. And I thought it was kind of funny listening to her talk about it, because I'm thinking, oh, a little terrier, oh, okay, yeah, try that with a big giant dog, where you have to hang on to like a tree to keep him from going after other dogs. Exactly. That's why I wanted to bring you in. You were going through this problem, and
and it was monumental, you know.
It's been going on it started when he was 18 months old. He's 13 now, so I've been dealing with it for almost 12 years.
Wow.
Of everything from, you know, what I call ninja dog walking, you know, leaping over, you know, bushes and, you know, jumping into traffic with him just to avoid crossing the path of another dog. You know, when he was younger and stronger, I literally would have to hang on to like a light pole or a tree to keep him from, you know, dragging me over to go after another dog.
Wow. Bridget, do you think you could have lasted for 13 years?
No,
Oh,
no.
my
And you're
God.
right. I often thanked the Lord that they got me a terrier mix instead of a bigger dog, because it would have I wouldn't have made it.
Bridget, Annette, I want you to tell our listeners some of the things that you've gone through with him.
Oh, my gosh. You know what? I can't even tell you the number of, you know, and I'll put air quotes around it, accidents that have happened when Gardner left the gate open and my dog got out. And you couldn't even have written this in a movie, you know, to be a worse, like, you know, plot setup, where it was a Down syndrome girl walking her puppy. And my dog went after it. And there was another night that my husband had taken my dog out, and at the time I had a rescued greyhound as well. And his prong collar popped off just as a guy came around the corner with two dogs, and he went after them. So I mean, we had paid vet bills for other dogs he'd been after, and he was an opportunist. There was another time my husband was, you know, picking up dog poo and wasn't paying attention, and a lady came running by with her poodle, and, you know, Buddy yanked the leash out of his hand and went after her dog. There was another dog that was a neighbor dog that had been antagonizing him through the fence for, you know, a couple of years. Well, the dog finally tunneled it was a Jack Russell Terrier, tunneled out of that neighbor's yard into a back neighbor's yard, from that neighbor's yard into our back neighbor's yard, and from that back neighbor's yard into our yard, and my dog killed it.
Wow.
So, I mean, and it's just been so hard because every single day taking him out just for a walk, being in fear that either he was going to injure or kill somebody else's dog, or get into a dog fight and get injured himself, or get taken away and put to sleep because he was a dangerous dog. I mean, animal control had been over and told me one more strike and they were going to take him. And there was an incident when I had been out walking him one night, you know, a while ago, because he's 13 now. My greyhound had been older when I first got him. And she passed away, and we got another dog, and that was a lab pit mix, which we knew we needed a sturdy dog that could, you know, put up with him being kind of, you know, brutish, if you will, until Rio got acclimated into the pack, and they were fine together. And I was taking him out walking one night, and they'd been together for like 4 years, and I was taking them both out walking one night, and there was a guy with a 90-pound husky that was off leash. He came running over and got into a huge dog fight with my Rottweiler Shepherd. And it was just like a spinning, bloody dog match, and it just terrified the hell out of me. And I've always been so afraid that any of these things could end up happening, but I didn't want to put him down. I'd tried calling other trainers, and they were like, oh, well, if he's attacked or killed another dog, he's a liability. We won't take him. You know, there's nothing you can do. Just keep him away from other dogs. So that's what I've been doing. So he went, the 13 years of his life, he's been in contact with 4 dogs in 13 years. And 2 of them were dogs that were in our family as part of the pack. And one was kind of an external pack. It was an Italian Greyhound that my mother had that he grew up with when he was a puppy. So those were the only, that. And then I had a roommate that I managed to introduce the 2 dogs. And he was fine one-on-one if we took like 4 hours to tandem walk and all these other things, and then would have to watch him really closely, and then he finally accepted him into the pack, and it was fine. But I was never able to take him to a dog park. We tried, and we went to the fence. My husband and I tried. We went to the fence, and he was just lunging at the fence and trying to go after the dogs through the fence. And we thought, there's no way in hell we'd take him inside the dog park. I'd be afraid that of what would end up happening to other people's dogs or to him.
Well, you know, when you came into my office, you know, because when a person has that kind of history, 13 years of this, and a dog not being with dogs in that period of time, you know, I spent a lot of time talking to you. Remember that?
Yeah, it was probably about a good 2 hours that we talked through all the things that have happened with him.
And it's so important. And, you know, I asked you, why are you here after 13 years? And you're getting ready to do something when you're going to bring some other dogs together. You know, the family is coming together again, and there's going to be a total of 3 dogs now living together, right? And
yeah. My husband and I were briefly separated, and he has the lab pit with him, and in that time he found a stray pit bull, male pit bull that he's bonded with and wants to have as part of our family. So I would have to figure out how to bring that dynamic back together where the 3 of them would be able to be together without either the other 2 teaming up on my old guy and hurting him or killing him, or I don't know. It was just like really worried about what could possibly happen.
Well, that time's going to come. I'm going to help you with that. But what I want people to understand is that when I was talking to you, when I see a situation like this and someone that sticks with their dog and their dogs are having this issue and they're not able to stop, you said something to me that was very important that really opened up something in me. And you said to me, I can tell my dog to leave it, to stay, I can drop the leash, and I can walk away and come back, and he does everything I tell him to do, right?
Right.
And then I told you, I said, well, what about when he's being aggressive? Will he listen to you? And you said no. And I said, well, then that means that at some point you have shown him that he's above you. If you can't emotionally, hormonally control your dog, that's what that means. And you looked at me like I was crazy because you were thinking, I'm a tough woman. And, I believe that he believes I'm in charge. And I said, no, that is not what's happening. Because you don't discipline. You may dominate, but you don't discipline. And you must be able to discipline and dominate so that you don't have to discipline and all you have to do is dominate. But domination without discipline, it doesn't work. And so I'm looking at your dog. When I saw your dog, I'm looking at where is the hero within your dog Buddy? Because I know that you have connected to the predatory side of him and you've connected to the opposite side, which is the love and affection side, but you've never been able to capture the core of the dog. And so the reason that I talked to you a long time is because that's what I wanted to look for. I wanted to see what you were trying to get out of this dog and what this dog had to offer after 13 years. And so when you left him with me, I know you said, wow, I got to sign this paper that says that something could happen to him.
Yeah, oh my gosh, when I read that, I was like, oh, he could get injured or killed or die. And I'm thinking, oh my God, my dog's he's going to have like an eye missing or something's going to happen. He's going to break his hip.
And I told you about this woman that came to my place with a dog that had killed 4 dogs. And she looked up at me and said, is he going to get hurt? After killing 4 dogs, But anyway, I was looking for that hero side. This is what I've been starting to talk about. And so when you left and you came back in a few hours, I think you actually came back a little earlier than I would normally have people come back, and tell our listeners what you saw and what you felt.
It was amazing. When I saw the video of him with the other dogs, I got all teary because he was just inside an enclosed area, just wagging his tail, all smiley and happy, and playing around with dogs and he has not been around any dogs in more than a decade, just almost his entire life. And just to see that he was capable of doing that and being in that situation without going after all of them or getting into a fight with them, that had not been my experience over the last 13 years.
And listen, you saw your dog playing. You saw your dog smiling, happy. And, normally someone told you, I believe, that why take him there? Why take him to a place like that where there's going to be too much stress? He's 13 years old. Let him live his life out the way he is. It's not worth it, blah, 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 right?
Yeah, even when I sent a link to one of the videos to my son, who hadn't expressed to me, you know, I told him that I was taking Buddy over there, and he didn't say it until he saw the video. He goes, you know, Mom, I honestly thought it was going to be a huge waste of money because I didn't think there was anything anybody could do about Buddy, but I didn't want to say anything, and I know you were hoping that, you know, that Brandon could do something about it. And he goes, it was worth every penny and more. He goes, I'm completely amazed that, you know, Buddy was even able to do that.
You know, that's the hero part I'm talking about. When you can tap emotionally and hormonally in your dog. See, the way humans think, we say, wow, a place that reforms dogs that are aggressive, oh, that's scary, it's going to be a problem, he's going to be abusive to his dog. And we hear over and over again people come back and say, my dog was happy, enjoyed it, because he got what he needed. He got what he needed. And you saw that. And I remember when I turned the video on, I turned back and looked at you, and I saw the tears in your eyes.
Yeah, I didn't think he could do it. I really didn't think he could do it. And and the tears were like a two-part thing. Part of it was the fact that I feel so bad that it had to go 13 years without me finding anybody that knew how to do this so that he could have like a happier and fuller life. And the other part of the tears is now for, you know, the remaining time in his life. You know, he's 13. I don't know how much longer he's going to live. He's in pretty good shape for his age. But, you know, they don't live forever. So I have just a few years left now that I can start doing things that I've never been able to do before. I'm looking forward to being able to actually go to like a street fair and walk my dog, take my dog with me, or go sit at a cafe and have him lay, you know, beside the table while I'm eating and other dogs are passing by without it being, you know, some sort of crazy attack chaos thing going on.
You know, someone said something once, I don't quite remember who it was, but they say you don't get the dogs you want, you get the dogs you need. And this dog is going to help you just as much as you're helping this dog. Doesn't matter that he's 13 years old. It's never too late. And I remember when you first came in, you told me how you would walk across the street or hide behind something when you saw other dogs coming. And now that you have left, you're telling me now that you're walking past dogs.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that same day that I picked him up, that night I was like, okay, I'm going to try out the techniques you taught me, and I'm going to take him out for a walk, and instead of crossing the street when I see another dog on the sidewalk, I'm going to walk past this dog, and nothing's going to happen, you know. And the first dog we came across was a husky, and we were able to walk right past it. The next one was like a little kind of timid terrier that would be the exact kind of dog he would have just grabbed a hold of, you know, before. And he walked right past those, and you know we're still working on it. He got a little bit of a challenge. I think it was this morning, or maybe it was last night, when there was somebody who came running up behind us with a dog, and my reaction was I startled and kind of spun around or whatever, and he did kind of lunge a little bit, but I got that you know under control, and then we finished the walk with passing by another dog, and he was fine.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. What I want you to understand is this, and I want to bring this up. I remember you said you got up to take him out, and you found yourself going to an area where there were no dogs, and then you thought about it. You said, wait a minute, that's not what Brandon wants me to do. He wants me to set my dog up to fail. And so you came back, and you made it happen. And I just want our listeners to understand something. Your dog can be as only good as you are. In other words, if you're a weak leader, then he's going to be a weak follower. If you challenge yourself, if you set your dog up to fail, then you're going to succeed and he's going to succeed. But you're going to have to be a little uncomfortable to do it. And I remember even in my presence when I was asking you to walk past me with another dog, and I said walk past me, you started to just subconsciously veer off to the right. And I had to start you over again and say, no, walk straight past me. Remember?
Yeah, and that's where I'm even having to work on my own feelings of avoidance because I've been doing it for so many years that I've got to change the way I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, just be a little patient with him. understand that when you find yourself doing the things that you've been doing for 13 years, at that moment, you've forgotten what I told you. And it's going to take a minute. You're going to be a little uncomfortable. You're going to be a little uncomfortable, and Bridget's going to be a little uncomfortable, and Danielle's going to be a little uncomfortable. But it's okay. It's okay because you've got a lifeline back to me to call me, and I want you to plug in so that you can get this thing right. And understand something. You've only had one day with me. Imagine what you could have had 13 years ago. You can get that now for the rest of his life. And I do want to see him again. You know, time is rolling, and we're at that hour. But I want to say I want to see you again. I want to see Bridget. I want to see Danielle. I want to keep you on the track and keep you informed mentally. And remember, mental energy is more draining than physical energy. The physical activities that we do with our dog is very overrated, and what we're doing is we're making a better athlete, a dog that's going to be stronger with the same problems. So, Annette, thank you for coming on to the show. Continue to tune in every Thursday at 1 o'clock to the Fouché Way Show to listen to people that are actually seeing the light, and I believe that every day it's going to get a little bit brighter for you. Okay?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited.
Thank you very much.
You're listening to Fouché Way with Brandon Fouché, right here on LA Talk Radio.